Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first of our new agent-focused series of live sessions, Agent Matters with TTG, in which we'll be checking in with some top agents to really find out how they are, how they and their teams have been coping with the incredible challenges of the last few weeks, and asking them to just share their experiences, really. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, then do join in the conversation while we're chatting. It'd be great to hear from you as well about how you've been getting on. You may well know all of our panellists, but I'll introduce them just in case. Sandra Corkin from Oasis Travel in Northern Ireland, Gemma Antrobus from Hazelmere Travel in Surrey, and Tony Mann from Idle Travel in, well, Idle, but what's your region?
Bradford, in Bradford.
And there is actually a town called Idle, if anybody's wondering. I always find that hilarious. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And I could just start by asking how you are, how you're feeling, how you're getting on. Sandra, how's today going for you?
Yeah, well, just the strangest of times. And I think, you know, obviously we're nearly 2 weeks behind us. And I think there's just the constant anxiety of how long is this going to go on for? And every day just wondering, you know, what holidays are affected, how many more cruises are cancelled. And it's the uncertainty that I think is really causing most anxiety for everyone. And of course, then trying to keep, you know, staff and your teams motivated. It's just I just find it very, very difficult.
Yeah. And what have you been able to do with your team? Have you placed any into furlough? Or, I mean, it's not necessarily the answer, is it, when you've got so much that you need to be doing and processing? And
yes, that's it. Because we'd still need people to be able to cancel bookings and to be able to process refunds and to move bookings. And of course, they are working for the company, even though they're not bringing any revenue to the company. So I think that's the one that I think that the government need to address. Look, what about people who still need to work, but they're actually doing this to bring no revenue in? So obviously we will be furloughing most of our staff and just keeping a team and increasing that team maybe as time goes on, and we'll have maybe more bookings coming in, but we will be doing that with most of our staff.
And so that's not happened yet, but you think that will be something you need to do in the next few days, or
later when they've all got notice, so it will be from today.
Right. Yeah,
I think Sandra's absolutely right. I think it's so hard right now to run effectively with your existing teams with no revenue coming in, but still having to fully service all these bookings, not just the ones that were affected, you know, up until mid-April, but all the clients that have bookings from end of April, May into June and beyond, who have questions, who want to change. And of course, you know, it's much better in our interest to change holiday dates than it is to lose those bookings, because they will travel eventually. But of course, you're doing double the amount of work for, you know, no money coming in at all. And we've had to do exactly the same as every other travel company out there. And that's, you know, go down to an absolute skeleton of just trying to keep on top of things. And, you know, the furlough option is obviously a massive plus for, you know, for staff to secure some kind of income, and, you know, quite a lot of income to some of them, which is great. And having 3 months off sounds, you know, bliss and all that kind of stuff. But actually, you know, it's not, because it's really hard to be at home and not be working when you know that the company you work for is on the other side going through such hard times, and those people still in the business are having to work 24/7 for the benefit of keeping the company going and effectively your jobs in the future. So it's hard for everyone. It's not easy to, you know, I don't ever think for a minute that, you know, being on furloughed leave is the, you know, is an easy option. It, you know, it sounds wonderful, but I don't think it is. Because
I think that we need I think we need an exemption, don't we? You know, we need ABTA to push that ABTA agents are a little bit different and unique to most other businesses where we're still working, or some of us are having to still work with no cost coming in. I think Derek Jones put it from Kearney, where he said that, you know, if you look at Pure Gym that's if you like closed down and they can follow the staff, we're still dealing with lots and lots of work, but actually there's no revenue coming in. And actually, if we didn't do that, then what would that fall on? You know, would that fall on lots of things with the Foreign Office, etc.? So I think it needs pushing that actually we're still trying to do work, which is actually still good for, you know, British citizens, really. We're still trying to help them, whether that's as we said, changing bookings, cancelling bookings. Actually, people still abroad, you know, we've still got people abroad that, you know, the government hasn't pulled the finger out and repatriated people that are actually, some are in dire need. We're quite lucky that the people that we've got in Australia and New Zealand were mainly with family, but, you know, we're still having to deal with all that. And at the same time, trying to save costs. So the furlough thing was excellent, better, far better at 80% than I thought the government were going to do. So, you know, hats off to them for doing that. But we probably need, you know, something to be pushed, that we need an exemption, because we're still trying to fulfill, keep us businesses going, but obviously save them costs to keep us business going, you know, for the future, that, you know, because we're all hanging on by the skin of his teeth. You know, we are hanging on, and, you know, there's other things into that. They need to pull the finger out over the package regulations too, because that's also a stress. So, yeah, stressful, absolutely. You know, I've had some sleepless nights, and I won't, you know, I'm not afraid to admit it. You know, some tears have been shed as well. You know, we are, as travel agents, it's part of us. You know, 36 years ago, I lost my name as being Tony Mann. I'm now Tony from Idle Travel, even outside of the travel industry. That's how people, if I go to parties at, you know, locally, it's always Tony from Idle Travel. I've lost my identity and gained a new one, but it's personal to us. And so, you know, we're all hurting inside, all of us. And, you know, that's as team, everybody a lot of people in the travel industry love the industry. So, and I know lots of people are hurting out there in completely different businesses, but we're a little bit unique in that we're still trying to help people in all shapes and forms, and we're juggling many things, because many things have been thrown at us. All bets are off, because everything has changed. What we would normally, you know, run our businesses by, I think we know what the rules and regulations are. It's completely changed.
Yeah. And have you already furloughed your team? Sorry, Tony, or is that?
Yeah, the majority of the team have been furloughed. So again, that puts pressure on really to try and, you know, saving the business. You know, that's what we've needed to do. So that needs to come through pretty quick. The grant needs to come through pretty quick. The loan scheme needs sorting out, because banks have decided that the old rules apply about guarantees and things like that. Well, actually, the government are guaranteeing 80%. So banks, pull your fingers out as well. You know, they're playing a little bit hardball and not going by the rules. So again, yeah, we're up against quite a lot, really.
So is that the business interruption loan?
Yeah, sorry, the business interruption loan. So straight away,
That's something you're hoping to take advantage of as well?
It's something I'll look at, absolutely, definitely, to keep us going, whether, you know, 6 months into a year to going forward when the business, you know, starts up again, and something to look at. But straight away, the first thing they're saying is the old loan rules. Well, the government 80% backing it, so just consider that when you're asking what guarantee. I'll put some guarantees down, but 80% is the government, so, you know, they need to sort themselves out as well, really.
Yeah. None of these things are happening quickly enough, are they?
No.
How about you, Sandra? Would you also look at the business interruption loan, or?
Yes, our bank was quite proactive, and my bank manager was in touch with me, and so I know that that's available to draw down if and when I need to. But yes, like Tony, they were sort of talking about personal guarantees rather than the government guarantee. But I sort of thought, well, at the minute, it's like sort of taking everything a week or two at a time, but knowing that you are prepared, you know, for the worst. So it's just so difficult to know when and if we're going to need this. But I have made preparations for it. Yeah, I think we kind of all have to.
It's a big decision, isn't it, to take that debt into your business?
Yeah, because then you know what's going to affect you later on when it comes to your ATOL bond and your ABDA bond, and you're sitting with a loan there. So you are thinking of the future. So I'm hoping we won't need it, but it's there if we do.
How about you, Gemma? Are you looking at the loan scheme or trying to?
Yes, we've got the information from the bank. We haven't made the application yet because obviously we've applied for the grant from the local council. I'm told that's imminent, but, you know, until it arrives in the bank, I'm not going to count it. And a bit like I was saying, we have the information available to make the application. We haven't made it yet. I have already heard some stories of agents that have applied that have been declined because they have too much money. And basically the banks are waiting for you to literally be on the brink before they will agree to this. So every bank's different, then banks are not particularly helpful. It's what's really stressful, I think, about the whole situation is these daily bulletins where, you know, our MPs stand up and they make sweeping statements about lots of things, about loans, about grants, about furlough for staff, about repatriation of clients, all of these affecting the travel industry. Yet actually getting these into play is near impossible. We still have no date for when staff will get their furlough payments. We have, as I said, we don't have any money from the local council in our bank yet, and I'm sure nobody else does yet in our bank account. And, you know, if this loan scheme is either being, you know, touted as only 80% now, with some personal guarantees, and banks are making it difficult, or, you know, basically saying, well, you've been too profitable, therefore you can't have any money. And yet we're all trying to plan for the future, and we're all trying to plan so that we don't go, you know, bust, and therefore our clients are affected and have to draw down on the ATOL scheme and all that kind of thing. It's literally rock and hard place as to what to do.
And are you also thinking about, you know, some of the other personal situation measures that have been announced about, you know, mortgage holidays and things like that, or are you just focusing very much on the business measures at the moment?
I think we're all trying to make as many cuts as we can in our day-to-day life, but, you know, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can cut down on. I don't think any of us live particularly extravagant lives. I know in travel it always seems like we have, you know, all this fancy lifestyle, but as we all know, it's fam trips and, you know, freebies and holidays that we win. So, you know, it would seem like we can make lots of cutbacks because we have, you know, lots of outlays. But, you know, times have been, you know, as they are for a number of years, and you live within your means as it is. So, you know, the measures are there, or to take should you need them, with mortgage holidays. And I think, you know, anybody that needs that will approach their own bank accordingly, but you've obviously got to be careful of your credit scores, and whether that has an effect on that. And when you're a director of a business, it has a larger implication. So, you know, trying to keep things going as normal as possible for as long as possible, I think, is in most owner directors' interests. Just to keep the status quo when we get through this.
Yeah.
We're all willing to pay, aren't we? We're all obviously willing to invest in a business, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we will do that as we've done over the years. But the thing is, they just need to apply it as it was inferred it was going to be, and, you know, that's the way it should be. So the banks should consider that, and, you know, I pointed that out to them. It's there if we need to use it, but actually, you know, it's 80% guaranteed by the government. So actually, when you're considering what guarantees, etc., you need, it's fine, I'll give you some, but 80% is the government. So that should make it easy. And, you know, and it's there not to drag us down, but to help us through the times. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And you've already touched upon it, this huge uncertainty around the whole refund regulations, and, you know, whether or not you should be giving your customers full refunds or credit notes. How are you having those conversations with clients at the moment, and what kind of feedback are you getting from them? Are you suggesting that they take a refund credit note instead? Or are you trying to give refunds where they want them?
I think for us in the first few days, when it was all so uncertain, when clients were saying, well, I'll just have a refund, you were, you know, going with the old PTRs and, okay, that's fine, you can have a refund, it will probably take 14 days. Obviously, as the days and probably hours sometimes unfolded, the soon realization came that that's just not going to be possible. So for the clients that we're having conversations with now, it's all about moving dates, taking credits, because, you know, their money is much more secure if they rebook for a future date, or they're taking a credit voucher from a company. And some of the cruise lines have been exceptionally generous with their 125%. Some travel companies are offering, you know, an extra 10% on a credit note. So, you know, that's in the interest of a client. So where possible, we're asking clients to move or take the credits, because I just really don't see where all this money is going to come from to provide all the refunds.
Yeah.
Andrew, what's the experience in Ireland been?
Yeah, same with us. Obviously, it's within our interest too, as Gemma said, to ask people to change their holiday dates. But we do have issues now where some clients are demanding a refund, and for a couple of companies, it's difficult even to get a response from them, never mind be able to tell the customer whether they're getting a refund or not. So, you know, it seems to be that different companies are applying different rules and regulations, so that's confusing. So you could have a holiday booked with one company and have your refund, and your friends have booked with somebody else and they're, you know, not getting a refund, or their conditions are completely different. So it's confusing for customers. But the majority, well over 50% of our customers have moved their holidays to date, which is great. Right. But just as time goes on, obviously, when we're getting into real peak season and the bulk of our departures, you know, there will be concerns, I think, as time goes on.
And when you say moving the date, I mean, what dates are they or you considering, you know, safe date?
Moving to next year. Yeah. Well, I would say at the minute, the majority September onwards, or 21, and a lot of people seem to be moving to 21.
Yeah. Same for us. They're either moving, we're sort of trying to encourage them from September onwards if they're trying to travel this year. But a lot of people are literally picking up the same trip and moving it to the same time next year.
Yeah.
Often because that's the best time. If you're going to Japan to see blossom, you need to go at the same time next year. If you're going to see puffins in the Shetlands, you need to go at the same time next year. So depending on what your type of trip is, but we kind of explain it to clients that had this not happened, they would have still taken that holiday. They're not cancelling because they don't want to go. They're cancelling because they have no choice, or their holiday is not taking place because they have no choice. So really, it's all about how you talk to your clients. And I think in the early days, when obviously, you know, staff were under huge amounts of pressure from clients to provide refunds, and tour operators were saying, yes, you can have a refund. The easiest thing to say was, okay, you can have a refund. But as it's transpired, you know, it's not going to be that easy. And now the conversations, because we know that, are very different. And it's, you know, if you talk to your clients in a way that, you know, encourages them to have something to look forward to, then, you know, everyone's going to want a holiday when this is all over.
Yeah, same for us. You know, 21 me sales are really strong for 21 at this time of year, but obviously it's because we're swapping them all from 20. But it's put a strain on the relationship with some customers. You know, the majority have been good. Lots have changed. You know, while we're coming to balances now, we're saying to people, this is the situation. You're not going to get a refund. It's going to be a refund voucher, and let them consider what to do. And a lot have swapped to 21. So as the balances are coming in, we can explain that. It's the people who paid the balances, obviously, that some are quite upset. You know, some I'm not going to lie, some have been very vocal and not too kind, shall we say. Some team have taken a lot of stress over that. And obviously, as Sandra said, the thing is, everybody's not doing the same thing. So every day another operator comes up with something different, or you can get the flight back with the accommodations, not what, you know, and that's the problem. Again, the government have been slow on the on the changes to the package regulations, and you know, in hindsight, I suppose years ago we should have looked way back from the ash cloud. Things should have changed over this, because you know, at the beginning it was difficult because we didn't know what was going on, and these changes were coming, and as companies have explained it to us, we understand the reasoning behind it. But obviously, with some customers, we're trying to obviously have a relationship, and a good relationship, and sometimes it's been very strained, to say the least. So, and as we get to more and more into summer season balances, etc., I think it'll get a bit more strained because people haven't got the money in their pockets, and I also understand that. So we just need clarity from the government to help us out here, and do what other countries have done and change that package regulation. Again, it's still good for them. And then on the other side, where tour companies are changing their booking conditions, as for instance, and doing it direct at first and then not with the others to trade, you know, they need to work in parallel with us as well. You know, that's the other thing that's happened. So
some operators are having different conditions for direct sales versus their agent partners.
Yeah, Balkan was the last one, and they said the reason behind it was slower with trade was because they'd asked Abta to start paying the balance 4 weeks before, and then the booking conditions changing, and they'd asked Abta, and eventually Abta has now said yes, they can do that, which is good for everybody. But of course, then as soon as they've done that direct, we're having customers ring and saying that they can do it, and where they say no, they can't. I mean, they've changed that this week, but so it's again it's all them things that are all changing and are all different, that again puts us in conflict with as customers, where we're trying to you know, keep calm for everybody, I suppose, really.
I think it's also putting a strain on our relationships with our suppliers as well, our tour operators. And you know, the vast majority of tour operators that we work with have been absolutely amazing and have been, you know, readily providing information, doing whatever they can. But there are the odd pocket of tour operators who, for whatever reason, are being less than helpful, not relaying the right information, and that is really tricky when, you know, we tell our clients we'll deal in fact, we'll tell you factually what we know right now to help you, whether that's you will get a refund, you won't get a refund, and particularly where refunds were being offered very early on, and you were confirming this in writing that, you know, your client wanted to cancel because of a refund. You know, only yesterday I had a client chase me up on it because of the 14-day package travel reg, saying where's my refund. Went back through our paper trail, and, you know, we cancelled a booking by email on the 17th of March. When I called to find out, you know, any information you can tell me, you know, don't expect this refund is coming, but, you know, what's going on, I was told it would take 28 days to reply to that email. And what would be in that email, they had no idea. The person on the end of the phone had no idea what would be in that email. And I couldn't speak to the department that was producing that email to even have some kind of foresight to be able to say to my client, look, we've got to wait a couple more weeks, but when we wait a couple more weeks, we'll have an answer. At the moment, all I can tell them is we've got to wait a couple more weeks to do what? To have no answer. And that's really, really hard. And then you see similar companies, or the same companies, touting out webinars for destinations and new product lines. And you think, hang on a minute, could we not sort out this situation that we have right now, rather than, you know, talking about that? And I know we all have to plan for the future. Right now, there are answers that the consumer needs and your agent partners need, which take priority, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, totally agree, Gemma. Yeah. And it's really annoying, whenever you know you're not going to get a response for 28 days and you can't tell the customer what's going to be in that response because you don't know. And as you said, Gemma, particularly as some of these companies came out within the first week and said, we're giving refunds, and now that looks uncertain. So we need to go back to our customers and say, well, that may not be just correct. We just need to wait and see. And after all, we really need our customers at the minute, and we're going to need them even more whenever this is over. But our partners are going to need us too. So, you know, the strong ones, you know, it really, really makes some operators really stand out in terms of their level of support for us. Some have been absolutely brilliant, but as I say, there have been the few who have, I think, been very disappointing in how they've handled this.
Oh, we've had interesting comment on Facebook. Julie Croucher mentioned that they've got a lot of clients like yours, Gemma, that they're encouraging to go on exactly the same dates next year, but some suppliers are saying that the client would need to return by the date they originally wanted to depart. I guess that's to keep it within a 12-month period specifically, which doesn't work for some longer trips where they were going to be on the Rocky Mountaineer, and they can't be doing that any earlier because it's just not operating there. So that's an interesting challenge if 12-month booking, 12 months rebooking restrictions are placed on it. That does, complicate.
I think this is where flexibility comes in, because I think, you know, in a normal circumstance, yes, moving it by 12 months would be completely realistic if we weren't in this situation. And you could very much go to your client and say, well, you know, those are the terms and conditions. But at the moment, we're already flouting the terms and conditions because of the package travel regulations. So trying to go back to a client and say, well, you must adhere to this change is really difficult, because you've already told them that we can't adhere to the change. So why should we expect that they can? I get the fact that there are flights out of date range. I understand that. I get the fact that, you know, suppliers may be imposing these kind of things, but there just has to be flexibility. It is far better that we keep this booking and we keep it for next year than we lose it entirely and end up everybody having to give back money that we don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's adapt and change, isn't it? And even simple things we're trying to do that we would normally do. We were trying to get a cancellation invoice for somebody who cancelled because they were ill for their travel insurance, and they were just so focused on, we kept saying, because of the coronavirus, no, we just want a cancellation invoice, that's all we want. And it, you know, it just, so simple things sometimes, but yeah, they need to adapt and change and quickly make changes when things like that. It's as Gemma was saying, we need to keep the customers. That's what we're trying to do, you know, and it will obviously, we'll all decide then going forward that after all this, which operators have dealt with it well, who we want to deal with, because, you know, my hair's grey enough and it's been grey, it can't get any greyer. So yes, that's without a doubt, depending how people deal with us at the moment, operator wise, we'll decide going forward who we will deal with in the future.
I think that would be easy to discuss with clients as well, because if you had a client come in that asked for a trip with X company and you said, I'm terribly sorry, we don't work with them anymore, and they ask you why, being able to turn around and say, well, actually, during this recent situation, we didn't have the support for our clients, would be really understandable.
Yeah.
But let me show you to X tour company who's been very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's right.
I've spoken to a few agents who've said that they feel like if their clients just have one more week at home doing very little, their thoughts are going to start turning to next year and you know, wanting to make travel plans. Have you had anybody with fresh inquiries for next year? And do you think that could come through in the next couple of weeks when people are bored at home and want to start dreaming about 2021? Or do you think it's going to be a while before you get those fresh bookings that aren't just rebookings?
This week I worked on a Christmas holiday for a family, and they actually, when we still had the office open, but it was a couple of weeks ago, but we were still obviously at the start of this situation. They popped into the office on a Saturday, and whilst we were trying to, you know, sort all these clients out, they came and said, well, actually, we've got an inquiry for Christmas, and, you know, it's taken a while to get it through, but working on something new has been absolutely lovely to, you know, look at gorgeous destinations for Christmas for a family. So yeah, they are few and far between coming in, but what we've been doing is sending a weekly e-shot to our clients on armchair traveling. So suggesting travel books or books that are travel related to read, what programs are on the telly at the moment that are travel related, any films that are, you know, filmed in gorgeous destinations, YouTube clips, suggesting things like lots of our hotel partners and I suppose hotel consortia are doing all sorts of fancy things on Instagram Live. Leading hotels of the world have just designed a colouring book. You can download the colouring book of all their best hotels, and then they'll do Instagram Lives with a designer who will colour them in with you. So there are so many things out there to inspire clients to travel. And on top of everything we're doing, it's our jobs to tell our clients this. So yeah, another thing that we're having to do to try and keep, you know, clients interested, which is, you know, when you've had to slash your staff, and probably marketing budgets and all those kind of things, it's, you know, the last thing that, you know, it's probably bottom of the pile, but we have to do it. We have to do it for the future. It's not just about rearranging these holidays. We have to plan for the comeback, because it will come back, and we have to be ready for it. And if you're seen to be not woe is me and oh my gosh, it's all so terrible out there, if you're seen to give them a little bit of hope, something to watch, even if it's for 5 minutes, or a little clip, or a suggestion, a recipe maybe. We've had lots of really lovely comments from clients saying, oh gosh, such a lovely email, it's not talking about coronavirus, you know. So, you know, you can only try.
Sandra, how about you? Are you keeping in touch with clients in the usual ways, email comms and so on?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important that we continue to keep in contact with our clients, particularly whenever there is, as Gemma said, so much doom and gloom out there. And particularly as, you know, a lot of times people are thinking, well, is this agency going to fail, or airlines going to fail, or hotels going to close down? So it is important that, you know, we reach out to customers and we say, we are still in business and we are still available to help you with your forward travel planning. And I think that I do think that within the next week or two, we may see more people contact us as they get used to staying at home, and people are going to have to turn to thoughts of how can we cheer ourselves up? What are we going to have to look forward to? So that's the other challenge whenever you're talking about furloughing staff. Look, how many people do we need to deal with those inquiries? We've had a couple, but as Gemma said, few and far between, but we have had a couple of nice bookings for next year, that have been new bookings, not stuff that's been changed. So I would like to think that people's thought will turn to holidays, and particularly as at the beginning people were very concerned about losing jobs and not having maybe money to pay for trips. But with this government scheme, for a lot of people, that will put their mind at ease, and they'll have very little to spend their money on over the next little while, not going out for meals, not doing normal things. So maybe a little bit more to spend on holidays for next year.
How about you, Tony? Have you had any new inquiries coming in?
Yeah, we just dealing with a first class Maldives one, so that was quite nice. As Gemma was saying, actually take your mind off the rest of the money going out and things like that. Then so that was quite nice. I think the last booking we did was middle of last week, but we've had a couple of inquiries actually this week, and we've tried to push that to consider, for people to consider, once everything is over and people start to rebook, then prices are going to rise, and at the moment prices are good out there. So to say to consider people, whether it's worth doing that deposit, it is safe, and consider it one for 21. So yeah, there's been a couple, but I'd certainly like lots more. And on the side, we've been doing competitions. We did an Easter egg competition last week that we started, and that's done quite well. We're looking at another one for kids this week, because obviously they may be driving you mad if you've got children at home. I've got my granddaughter here, so I'm sick of Toy Story 4. I'm sick of all the songs, and Forky, who is a new character, I want to absolutely throttle. So yeah, so we're doing a kids competition. Yeah, I'm all Toy Story'd out.
Something a few of our listeners or viewers on Facebook have mentioned is training at the moment, and we were looking into this actually. Are individuals allowed to still, be doing product training or whatever, and when they're in furlough? And apparently that is definitely fun. Is that something you'll be encouraging your teams to do, or would you be a bit reluctant to ask them to be logging on and doing sort of webinars and online training programs when they're on furlough?
I suppose it is a good opportunity. I mean, I think that everybody's going to get fed up if they're not already fed up being at home, and it probably is a good opportunity whenever people have that a bit of additional time. So yes, I think it is something that we would encourage.
I think if you work in travel and you love travel like all of us do, even without your employer telling you to log on to a webinar or something, if you are missing your job and missing talking to your clients, you'll be doing that naturally. If you're on furloughed leave and you've got 3 months at home, like I was saying about everything that's now available on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, every kind of, social media channel, you'll be doing that because that's what you love. So, you don't work in this industry unless you love what you're doing, and, knowledge is power. And, as we don't know what this industry will look like when we get through the other side, everybody needs to be, tip top of their game and be able to talk to clients just as we used to, without having a 3-month break from it or that kind of stuff. So, it's in everyone's interest to just learn more about this wonderful industry, so that when we get back, we have that knowledge at our fingertips.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I think if you are fed up of Toy Story and Frozen and all the rest that they're having, yeah, absolutely, it's a good idea. And as we said, we love travel that much that knowledge is, we want to suck as much knowledge in as we can. So yeah, it's a good idea, and I think it'd be good for everybody. I think my team would it just gets them away and change that day a little bit. So absolutely.
It's all very, very new at the moment, isn't it? But just, give it another couple of days, another week, then anybody who is in furlough will have perhaps settled in a little bit and be ready to look ahead and what they're going to do with their time. It'll evolve a bit. Another specific question, just from Jean-Marc from Bear here, around what your sense is of what your teams would prefer. Do they still really like logging into an online course and multiple choice and that kind of thing, or do they like being in a live webinar environment where they can ask questions, or prefer to watch a video in their own time? Again, it's that sort of difference between doing things independently in their own time, or maybe attending a live event, something like this, where they can communicate with other people.
Yeah, I think a live event where they can communicate with other people, I feel that our team are certainly missing that. And already, there's WhatsApp groups set up, and there's Zoom calls. They like to stay in touch with each other. They like to see each other. So I think something that's more interactive is good.
Okay.
I think it's individual. I think as a business, we've never been into webinars full stop. So it's not something my team have sort of done on a regular basis. So I think they'd probably be more likely to look at something in their own time, just knowing what's out there. And most webinars are available after the fact anyway. So yeah, I think it's probably individual, not even per business. I think it's probably just as each different person deals with this situation. Again, you don't know what they're having to deal with at home. Again, if they've got Toy Story on all day long and kids all around them, it might not be, it might not be appropriate. But then maybe they've got an hour in the evening to, you know, it might even just be watching Race Across the World, you know, the BBC Two program at the moment that's, you know, highlighting South America and, you know, all the wonders that it has. You know, even that's educational, but on a, you know, a less formal basis.
Yeah, same here. I think a mixture of both actually, or all that, but actually fun. Let's make it a little bit fun, because we do need that you know, to smile a little bit and laugh, and you know, and so yeah, a bit of both, but definitely fun.
It's obviously really hard at the moment to know how quickly recovery is going to come and in what form it's going to come as well. Are you able to plan at all for 2 or 3 months down the line at the moment, or are you like taking each day as it comes?
I think there has to be an element of some planning, and what we're sort of looking at is what we think could be worst case scenario. Now, it's difficult to know what that looks like, but I think even though we know that, you know, a lot of the flights are cancelled up until the end of this month or sometime into next month, I think it's realistic to prepare for a bit longer than that. So at the minute, what we're doing is looking at things and saying, right, say, you know, everything is cancelled really up to the end of June. What does that look like? So we're trying just to prepare for a little bit ahead of what is the reality at the minute.
I think what's really important in all of this is, from situations like this becomes opportunity. And I think we are still in that stage of, you know, chasing our tails, trying to rearrange people's travel and communicate with our clients. But I think that in a couple of weeks' time, there will be the opportunity for business owners and managers to sit down and reflect on, you know, how their business has been run thus far, because many of us never have that opportunity. And then to look at what do you want your business to look like when it comes through this? Are you absolutely happy with everything that you've been doing for the last 5, 10, 15, in our case 32 years? You know, what can we do better? What do we not need to do? You know, what do we do? What, you know, what measures do we need to put in place to make us stronger and leaner for the future? And you know, I do firmly believe that, you know, those of us that take time not only to look after our clients and our staff during this, but plan for, you know, the future, will come out even stronger and carry their businesses forward, because we just don't know what the travel landscape is going to look like. At the moment, you know, the one thing that agents and I suppose tour operators has always really hung our hats on is, you know, book with us because you're fully financially protected, and the package travel regulations, and if anything goes wrong, you'll get your money back. Well, this situation has shown that when it shuts down globally, it's just not possible. So what's going to change from that perspective? Are we going to be able to use that to engender loyalty with our clients? You know, is that message still valid? What does that mean? How do we put a value on the services that we provide? I don't have all the answers, but I think it's conversations that as business leaders we need to have for the strength of our industry, because everything that we've held dear to our hearts has kind of been, you know, trampled all over. You know, it's all very well someone coming to you and wanting to book a trip, and then they said, but you know, what happens if it's cancelled? Will I get my money back? I can't say because of this situation that you will. So yeah, there is opportunity to come. You have to be out there to take it. You have to plan for it. You have to be more creative and more innovative than you've ever been before. And you know, let's see how that looks.
Yeah,
I agree there.
How about you?
Yeah,
idle travel will emerge differently.
I think that, you know, as Gemma was saying, I think the industry is going to definitely change, and I think it needs to change. And I think from a point of view of a travel agent, then I need to know who's got our voice and who is shouting our voice to these government ministers. So the package travel regulations has to change. It should have changed before, in all honesty. And then we've got to understand how we can sell our business to our customers and know, you know, what we can in bonding and things like that and protection. So absolutely, it's definitely got to change. On the plus side, you know, I have also been thinking we were planning a big campaign, a radio campaign, a competition, and actually I'm more excited now with that competition, thinking that once we are back, that's actually going to be quite an exciting competition. It's evolved a little bit. It never got off the ground. It right through the middle of when we were considering launching it. So that is actually going to be really important to us. And I've thought about actually then reaching out to local businesses as well, because, you know, some of the businesses book with us, and I think we need to kind of say, collectively in this community, we're all back in business and we're all back together. So if we can all work together as well in some shape or form, that would be important as well, because as I said, some of our customers obviously are hurting as well, and so working together again, you know, we do a fair amount in his local community. We need to do more and actually and help our customers as well with their businesses. All together, collectively, we can become stronger, because I think even in the travel industry, agencies all together are stronger. I do believe that. So yeah, it's got to change, but once we're through this, then it's time to consider what we're going to do. So yeah, we're already thinking of the exciting things that once we're through it.
Yes, that's good to hold on to.
I'll have a copy of Toy Story. That's what I'm going to do.
To know off by heart. I will let you get back to your very busy responsibilities now. I've kept you for a little longer than I originally said, but it's so nice to see you and catch up with you. And thanks for talking so honestly about, you know, what you and your teams have been going through and your hopes for the future as well. Really enjoyed it, and we've had a great audience on Facebook Live with lots of interaction and questions too. So thank you very much, panelists. Thank you to all the agents and industry professionals that tuned in on Facebook, and we'll be back again next week to get another update. So thanks for listening, everybody. Take care and stay safe. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.